Nightwing 107, legacy number 294. Tom Taylor writing, of course, Stephen Byrne on the art. So we got Pirate Nightwing this issue. And once again, we start with a flashback to the time of Rick Grayson, which he's playing with fire. That Tom, he's playing with fire.
I don't hate it, though, because the way that Taylor's doing it is he's treating it as like this lost era. And so I can feel like I didn't have to experience this lost era to feel, like, oh, he had this kind of relationship with the bartender, and that's all we need to know from it. We don't need to talk about the rest of it.
Although, as I was reading these first few pages, and it's basically just Rick talking to B about the box and not wanting to open it because it's not really for him, it's for Dick Grayson and I'm Rick, kind of stuff. With every bubble he got to speak, I just thought he was more and more dull. Like, this is such a dull guy. Rick Grayson is dull as shit.
Rick Grayson sucked. Is this where he talks about Schrodinger's cat too? Where he's like,
yes. She's like, what if there's something living inside? If there's a cat in there, it's dead.
Yeah. Like, man, you suck, dude. I love Dick Grayson. Rick. Yes.
And I feel like Taylor's intentionally making him suck because it's like, no, see, like this was bad. Now we have proper Dick. So yeah, obviously we had the cliffhanger where he's on the boat with B, who's calling herself Captain Blood. Turns out the guy that died was also a Captain Blood. That was her adoptive father. So she's now taking the reins. And something that comes up a bit later in the issue is that a lot of the crew will challenge that because she's adopted, they don't see her as a rightful heir to the ship. But that's something they're going to have to deal with. A lot of this, though, and probably my favorite part of this is the idea that Barbara's listening to everything that's being said, and I really appreciated that because it would be so easy to have Barbara get jealous because Dick's technically high in it with an X, but she never does. It's handled very deftly. She's supportive, she's concerned for him, she's worried about where this is going. She even cracks a joke when he puts on the outfit, and she's like, "Yeah, bring that back with you. I want Pirate Dick."
So the thing that I love about this is that I don't know if maybe it's just the generation of the heroes because we've grown with them for so much, right? But Babs and Dick feel like an actual proper relationship in the way that Wally and Linda do. Like, they feel like a real married couple with kids, and Adams has done a really good job at that, and all the other writers that have come before have really done a good job with Wally and Linda. And so I feel the same here, at least with Taylor, that they feel secure in their relationship. And I just buy it. I didn't expect her to get jealous. I expected her to have her little quips about things, and it's just, it's one of those relationships in comics that just feels real. And we don't get too many of those anymore.
Yeah. The big thing in the issue, though, is that Dick actually freezes. Like, so someone goes overboard and he goes to jump in to save them, and he gets to the railing and he just freezes and he can't move. So that's a big thing we're going to be dealing with going forward in this arc, presumably, is what's giving him the jitters, basically. Like, what's causing this? So, very curious. Maybe it's a little bit of Rick coming back. It's like Rick being a dweeb, effectively. I don't know. It's probably more than that. But towards the end of the issue, B insists, because she's like, "Hey, you're the only one seeing me through those eyes." And he's like, "Nope, I'm going to be honest. Someone else is watching through my visor." And she's like, "Look, this has to be confidential. No one can know where we're going." And Dick actually says no, initially. But yeah. Well, no, it says no, whatever it... Yeah, anyway, but he agrees.
He disagrees because he knows, like, this is his tracker, right?
Yeah.
But in order to gain her trust more, he goes along with it.
So he takes off his mask, and although B throws it in the water, I was like, "Oh, yeah, they'll have to ruin it. Put it in a box somewhere." It
is more symbolic that he's throwing that away. The idea too, where she says, "Why are you dressed like that?" And he goes, "That's what was in there." She goes, or "That's all that was in the dresser." She goes, "Yeah, there was also a cabinet. You could have looked in there for real clothes." That was very funny.
Yeah.
Like, he just accepted the pirate clothes first chance he got.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. And then her throwing the mask away is actually the end of the issue. It's basically, this issue, it's kind of interesting because none of us like his time as Rick Grayson. And the narration at the end of this is basically Dick saying, "Look, this was Rick's girlfriend, not really mine. but I feel like I have to sort of like, do this for her and be the good guy, and because I mean, we didn't read the Rick Grayson stories, but it mentions in here that he kind of deliberately dumped her at one point.
Yeah.
And he wants to kind of make good on that. So, and he also wants his box, which
whatever's in there.
So
because whatever was in there too, the quartermaster felt the need to keep it safe by moving the whole thing, right? From Zuko and Heartless.
The thing I was getting at though is that what's interesting about this is that it's kind of this burden from this time of Rick Grayson, which he's not enjoying having to do this, but he kind of sees it as this burden that he has to put up with. And I think it's kind of interesting that I think we, the audience, feel the same way. We would rather probably not just deal with any of his Rick Grayson stuff, but they're giving us... Taylor's created this compelling mystery of what was in this box during this time as Rick Grayson, that it's like, okay, we have to go through and deal with some of these elements from his past that we don't really want to deal with. But we have to. It's like the burden in the same way it's a burden for the character. And I think that's for the character, it's more the burden of this relationship and this woman that obviously feelings he hurt and all that.
And it's a period that he probably wants to forget, which, I mean, amnesia and whatnot, but like, it's something that Dick probably doesn't want to have to deal with. Like, just that whole era of him getting shot and, not having any contact with the Bat family, and it's this era, but, this is making him having to face that like it did happen. It's this trauma that he has to face and not just ignore. So it works on all those levels.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think to wrap up here, I would say that this is probably my least favorite story in the book since the start of the run, which is not to say it's bad. Like, for everything I've said, there's a lot of thought went into this, and I understand what it's doing, and I enjoy the Babs and Dick stuff, and the fact that they're not going to be in communication for the next issue or whatever is going to be a big deal. I appreciate all the things that it's doing, but fundamentally, Dick going on a pirate adventure was never going to appeal to me as much as the regular stuff that goes on in the run. So this was probably always going to be a weaker part for me overall, but it's still a solid issue at what it's doing.
Yeah, well, and Taylor's done a good job for me at making the crew untrustworthy, right? So not only the reason that Dick froze is that a guy got thrown into the water, one of the other crew members, right? Someone bumped into there.
Well, yeah, we never even explained. So they're getting after B's brother, who's a natural brother, or sorry, a natural son to the previous captain. So some of the crew are loyal to him. So they've got a mole, or more than one mole perhaps, for the brother, and their brother is also a piece of shit. He's a criminal who deserves to be locked up, and they're going after him to capture him. Yeah, because
Babs looks him up and says, human trafficking, drug smuggling, all this other bad stuff, right? So he's a bad dude. But it definitely, Taylor making us also, Dick's got to watch his back, B has to watch her back. So they're basically going to have to depend on one another as they go through this adventure. And I like that. And also her being Captain Blood and the whole idea of Bloodhaven, and that's how the city got its name, right? Because we knew it was a port town, with all of that stuff, and that they're the original reason for the name, is that it was like this haven for pirates, which goes in with the history of that city very, very well. So I like that Taylor's
it's
playing with that
developing the
as well.
mythology of Bloodhaven a little bit, which is nice. Yep. Yeah, and the idea that she maybe can't trust any of her crew right now because she doesn't know who's on her side and who's on her brother's side. Right. That's all fine, and she says the only way to dissuade them is to actually put him properly locked up behind bars. So that's what the goal is. The goal is to find him, and in return she'll take him to where the ship is now with the box, and he'll get the box. That's the idea going forward. It's all solid stuff. I just don't like the overall gist of it as much as the regular stuff we're doing in the city with Heartless and all the other things that Nightwing's been doing. So for me, I'll be rating it a little lower than I normally do, but not by much. What are you giving it, Matt?
I'm giving this an 8. I thought it was really... I liked it a lot, especially the art, a lot of the coloring and all that stuff too. Really, really nice. But the story itself, not that I dislike it as much as you do, but yeah, compared to Heartless and all of the kids in the city, I prefer that. So him going off on a ship, I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, I'm giving it a 7.5. It's not super harsh. It's just it's just never going to appeal to me quite as much as the other stuff. And part of that is also just having to put up with Rick Grayson scenes, even though I think he's using them kind of well. I also just don't want to see Rick Grayson ever. So,
Yeah.
you know, but I appreciate what he's going for, and I still think it's a pretty solid issue.